A Manual of Self-Awareness. Luangpor Teean Jita Subho. Foreword. Throughout the 30 years of his teaching, Pun Intapu, later known as Luangpor Teean Jita Subho, pointed out the true essence of truth which is latent in everyone without exception, regardless of nationality, religion, sex, or age. If the practice is performed correctly, one can see, know, and understand the truth, as the Buddha did. The method is to cultivate self-awareness, that, being aware of bodily movements, being aware of the movement of the mind. If one practices correctly and continuously, jnana panya, insight, will arise until the suffering comes to an end. We agreed to edit the teaching from various occasions and consolidate them into one source, so that they can be used as the manual for anyone who is interested. The contents of this book are the essence of Luangpor Teean doctrines, practical techniques as well as how to solve problems and obstacles that may occur. The fruits of practicing are included as a guideline in the appendix. We wish to thank to everyone who has helped in making this book possible. Luangpor Teean Jita Subho Foundation. Brief biography of Luangpor Teean Jita Subho. Luangpor Teean Jita Subho, 1911 to 1988, or Pun Intapu, was born on September 5, 1911, at Bohom, Umpur Chiangkan in the province of Lae. He was the son of Jean and Soam Intapu. His father died when he was young. Since there was no school in the small village of Bohom, he did not have formal education in his childhood. The boy, like the rest of them in the village, had to help his mother in running their farm. At the age of 11, he was ordained as a novice at the village monastery, and stayed there with his uncle who was a resident monk. During a year and 6 months in the monastery, he studied Laotian scripts and ancient local scripts. He also started practicing various meditation methods, such as the Budo and breath-counting methods. After disrobing, he returned to his home. Following tradition, he was ordained as a monk at the age of 20. Again, he studied and practiced meditation with his uncle for 6 months. After returning to lay life, he was married at 22 and had 3 sons. In his village, he was always a leader in Buddhist activities and was highly respected, and chosen to be the head of the village on 3 different occasions. Despite of heavy responsibilities, he continued his meditation practice regularly. Later he moved to Chiangkan, a larger community, where his sons could attend school. Being a merchant, he sailed his steamboat along the Mekong River between Chiangkan, Nong Khai Vientiane, or even as far as Luang Prabang. He had opportunities to meet several meditation masters, and his enthusiasm in pursuing Dhamma, the truth, continued to strengthen. Furthermore, he began to realize that many years of being good, making merit, and practicing various methods of meditation had not liberated him from his anger. Finally, he determined to start searching for the way out. In 1957, when he was nearly 46, he left his home with firm determination not to return unless he found the truth. He went to Wat Rung Siamuk Daram, Thumbone Punpro, Umpur Tabor in Nong Khai province, Umpur Sichian Mai at present, and practiced a simple form of bodily movements, except that he did not follow the recitation of the words thingning, moving, stopping, like others did. What he did was only being aware of the movements of the body and mind. Within a couple of days, on the early morning of the 11th day of the waxing moon, the 8th month of 1957, his mind reached the end of suffering completely without traditional rituals or teachers. Later he returned home. He taught his wife and relatives what he had found for 2 years and 8 months, as a lay teacher. He then decided to re-enter monkhood in order to be in a better position to teach the people. The ordination was made on February 3, 1960. His teachings were spreading across the country as well as outside. He devoted his life to the teaching of Dhamma despite his poor health. He was diagnosed to have stomach cancer, malignant lymphoma, in 1982. In spite of his illness, he continued his work actively and incisively until the end of his life. On September 13, 1988 at 6:15 p.m., he passed away calmly at the age of 77, in a hut on Ga Buddhadhamma, Tup Ming Kwan, Thumbone Gudpong in Lae Province. Introduction. 1. The Dhamma, the truth, which I am talking, belongs to everybody. It does not belong particularly to any religion, whether Buddhism, Brahmanism, or Christianity, nor to any nationality, whether Thai, Chinese, French, English, American, Japanese or Taiwanese. Anyone who realizes it, possesses it. One who realizes it, possesses it. One who does not realize it, does not possess it. It exists in everybody regardless of his religion. Having realized it, you cannot prohibit others from cultivating it. Having realized it, you cannot destroy it, because it is indestructible. Nothing can destroy it. It is impossible to stop others from realizing it, because one who cultivates it will realize himself. One having realized, it is impossible to destroy because is so all the time. To man himself is religion. Dhamma is in man. Man is Dhamma. The ancients said, heaven or hell is in the mind, so is nirvana, the extinction of all defilements and suffering. Where is the mind? Have you ever seen the mind? If you have never seen it, you should practice until you know what the mind is. Hell is mental suffering or unhappiness. When it fades away, we are in heaven. Whenever anger recurs, we then revert to hell. 3. The Buddha nature is the mind that is clean, clear, calm, pure, bright and quick. This kind of mind exists in everybody without exception. Water and mud are not the same thing. It is the mud that makes the water look turbid, but the water itself is clear. Our mind is the same. If we realize this, we will gradually follow the path. The Buddha nature is the mind that is clean, clear, calm, and pure. When the mind is pure, the mud cannot pollute the water anymore. When the mind is bright, the mud will transform into sediment and break through the bottom. When the mind is quick, it is light and can see everything. The mundane Dhamma, worldly truth, and the transcendent Dhamma, ultimate truth, are in coexistence. If we really realize the latter, then we can distinguish them from each other. If we do not realize it, we cannot make a distinction. 4. The Dhamma that made Siddhartha become an arahant or the Buddha, existed prior to him. It is the neutral mind that exists at the moment, neither being happy nor sad. While you are listening to me now, how is your mind? It is neutral. Are you conscious of this state of mind? If you are conscious of this neutral mind, this is what we call calmness. You can work, talk or think anything. This kind of mind requires no effort. It can be easily taught, but one who does not understand it tends to make something easy unnecessarily difficult, or something simple to be complicated. This neutral mind is natural and requires no effort. Everybody has this kind of mind, but we have never looked before. It is called upekkha, equanimity. 5. Man is born to think. He thinks this and that endlessly. Thoughts flow all the time like a stream. Thought is the quickest thing. It is quicker than lighting or anything. Suffering arises because we do not see thought. Thought itself is not suffering. When thought arises, we do not see, know, and understand it simultaneously, so greed, anger, or delusion arises and brings us suffering. In fact, there is no greed, anger, or delusion. They occur because we do not see the source of the mind. 6. So let us cultivate self-awareness. When thought arises, we see, know, and understand it. It is sati samadhi panya, awareness, attention, insight. We call it self-awareness. Whenever we are aware, thought cannot concoct. If we do not see it, it will concoct endlessly. This method is the shortest way to sudden enlightenment. Part 1. Cultivating self-awareness. Self-awareness. Let us be aware of the movements of the body, for example, while we are blinking, be aware, while we are breathing, be aware. When thought arises, be aware. This is what we call sati, or self-awareness. Self-awareness is invaluable. We cannot buy it, nor can anyone cultivate it for others. For example, when I am clenching my hand, is anyone conscious of my feeling? No one is. Outwardly, you can see I am making a fist, but you are not conscious of my feeling. Similarly, when someone is making a fist, I can see but I am not conscious of his feeling. Rhythmic movements. There are certain techniques to do certain jobs in order to achieve the end. In the same way, the cultivating of self-awareness to achieve sati, samadhi, panya, awareness, attention, insight, needs technique too. Do not sit still. Move rhythmically all the time. Do not close your eyes. You can sit in any position or on a chair, stand or lie down. Now I will suggest the method to you. See illustrations. First, rest the hand's palm down on the thighs. Second, turn the right hand onto its edge, be aware, do it slowly, then stop. Do not say to yourself turn the right hand, being aware is enough. Third, raise the right hand up, be aware, then stop. Fourth, lower the right hand to rest on the abdomen, be aware, then stop. Fifth, turn the left hand onto its edge, be aware, then stop. Sixth, raise the left hand up, be aware, then stop. Seventh, lower the left hand to rest on the right hand, be aware, then stop. Eighth, move the right hand up to rest on the chest, be aware, then stop. Ninth, move the right hand out, be aware, then stop. 10th, lower the right hand onto its edge on the thigh, be aware, then stop. 11th, face the right palm down, be aware, then stop. 12th, move the left hand up to rest on the chest, be aware, then stop. 13th, move the left hand out, be aware, then stop. 14th, lower the left hand onto its edge on the thigh, be aware, then stop. 15th, face the left palm down, be aware, then stop. This is a practical way of cultivating self-awareness. We do not have to study the scriptures because they are only words. Studying the scriptures is not the way to enlightenment. This practice is the way to enlightenment. There are 8 steps of rhythmic movement in standing, 7 steps in sitting down. We should also be aware in other positions, such as lying on our left side, right side, or lying flat on our back, getting up from the left side, from the right side, and from lying flat on our back. You should cultivate self-awareness frequently. Walking back and forth, Jungama walking. After sitting for a long time, which may cause pains and aches, we can change the position to the walking back and forth. After walking for a long time, we can change to the sitting posture. This is called changing the positions, sitting, lying, standing, walking. You should allot them properly. Do not move the arms while walking. We should fold the arms across the chest, or clasp the hands behind the back. While you are walking back and forth, be aware of the feeling or the feet. It is not necessary to say to yourself, right foot moves, left foot moves. Do not walk too fast or too slow, walk naturally. Be aware while you are walking. If you walk without self-awareness, it is useless. Cultivating self-awareness in daily life. To cultivate self-awareness, we must practice as much as possible. We can practice even when we get in a car, or on a bus. While we are sitting on a bus or in a car, we lay our hand on the thigh, and turn the palm up and down, or we run the thumb over the fingertip, or we make a fist and open it repeatedly. Do it slowly and be aware. Wherever or whenever you practice, take it easy like playing. Only move one hand at a time, do not move both hands at the same time. If you move the right hand, do not move the left hand. If you move the left hand, do not move the right hand. Someone might say, I am very busy. I do not have time to practice, or I cannot do it, I am not pure enough. These are excuses. If we intend to do something, we can find time to do it. Whatever we do, be aware. For example, if you are a teacher, when you pick up a pen, pick it up with awareness. While you are writing, be aware. This is the natural way of cultivating self-awareness, learning Dhamma with nature. While you are having a meal, pick up the spoon, be aware, take the food into your mouth, be aware. While you are chewing food, be aware, swallowing food, be aware. Practice continuously like a chain. I guarantee the teachings of the Buddha, and the method I teach. I guarantee what I am saying, if you are serious enough and practice continuously, like a chain or the hands of the clock that rotate all the time. To practice continuously like a chain or like the rotating hands of the clock, does not mean that you have to cultivate self-awareness, by doing rhythmic arm movement, or walking back and forth all the time. The word to practice all the time means to be aware while doing all daily tasks, washing clothes, sweeping floor, cleaning house, washing dishes, writing, or buying and selling, just be aware. This awareness will accumulate little by little like the raindrops fall into a good container, and fill it to the brim. When we walk forwards or backwards, move the hand in or out, be aware. When we go to bed, we can make a fist and open it repeatedly until we fall asleep. When we wake up, we should continue our practice. This is called cultivating self-awareness. Summary. Practice the rhythmic movements continuously like a chain, as the Buddha taught. Be aware of it at every moment, standing, walking, sitting, lying, bending or stretching. When you practice the rhythmic movement, turning the palm up and down, raising the hand, lowering the hand, be aware. When you are nodding, and raising your head, be aware, leaning to the left, leaning to the right, blinking the eyes, opening the mouth, breathing in and out, be aware. When thought arises, be aware. Be aware of the movements all the time. Do not sit still. This is the technique of cultivating self-awareness. The essence of practice, a handful leaves Dhamma, is being aware of the movement of the body and the movements of the mind. I guarantee, if you practice continuously and seriously as I have taught, in at most 3 years, suffering will end. It may take only 1 year. For some people it may take only 1 to 90 days. The result is that suffering will decrease, or cannot disturb you anymore. Part 2. Walking on the path. Be sure that our objective in practicing Dhamma is self-knowledge. We should start from the basic stage and go step by step as the Buddha taught. If we do not follow this way, there will be no progress in our practice. Basic stage. For the beginners, doing rhythmic arm movement is better than walking back and forth. Move the arm rhythmically, slowly, gently, and lightly. When it stops, be aware of it. When it is moving, be aware of it. If you move the arm too fast, you cannot catch up with the bodily feeling that arises, because the awareness is not strong enough. We should practice continuously, regardless of tiredness. If we think we are tired and take a break, there will be no chain of continuity. After you have realized something called Rup-Nam, body-mind, then you can walk back and forth. You must really realize it. When thoughts arise, do not stop them. Let them flow, do not follow them but come back to Rup-Nam. Always be aware of Rup-Nam. Sometimes, piti, rapture, will arise. PT will carry us away from being aware of Rup Nam. As long as we are not aware of Rup Nam, our mind will be gradually dulled. Thoughts will arise, let them arise freely. You might feel dizzy or suffocated, if you suppress them. Be relaxed, do not worry whether you are aware or not. The first stage that one will realize is Rup Nam objects. These are Rup, body, Nam, mind, Rup acting, Nam acting, etc. See the appendix. One should review backwards and forwards, over and over. While we are reviewing these objects, thoughts will arise. Let them go. Whenever we are aware, the mind will stay with Rup Nam objects. Review them backwards and forwards, until they are embedded in the mind. When thoughts arise, sometimes we are carried away by them, which might make walking or doing rhythmic movement faster or quicker. We should be aware and slow down. It does not matter how long it takes. Seeing thought mind stage. After one has realizes Rup Nam objects completely, one should keep on observing thoughts. Speed up the rhythmic arm movement or walk faster. Do not suppress thoughts. Practice with ease. Observe thoughts with ease. Whenever thought arises, whether gladness or sorrows, be aware of the bodily movements, then thought will stop immediately. Generally, when thought arises, the mind will be dragged along, like a kitten trying to catch a big rat. The rat, thought, is bigger and stronger than the kitten, awareness. When the rat shows up, the kitten, by nature, will catch the rat. The rat is frightened and runs away with the kitten holding on. After a while the kitten becomes tired and let the rat go. Similarly, thoughts will arise endlessly and stop by themselves. As we cultivate self-awareness more and more, it is like we keep feeding a kitten until it becomes a big, strong cat. When thought arises, the mind will not be dragged along, and thought will stop immediately. If thought arises powerfully, we have to clench our fist tightly, or do whatever actions that suit us. If it is strong enough, then thought will stop by itself. Keep on practicing. Whenever thought arises, you will be aware of it immediately. As I have often told you, if there are two men and one chair, the man who is stronger and quicker will occupy the chair. When we cultivate self-awareness more and more, this self-awareness will replace the unawareness, so the unawareness will gradually decrease. Let thoughts arise, the more thoughts arise the more we are aware. When self-awareness increases more and more, it will catch up with thoughts. Suppose that 100 thoughts arise, we are aware of only 10 but we are not aware of the other 90. Next, thoughts are 100, we are aware of only 20 but not the other 80. We continue our practice until we are aware of 80 but not the other 20. Now, we are aware of 90 thoughts, then 95. When we are aware of 95 out of 100, we should practice earnestly. Do not be discouraged or slack or sleep during the daytime. When thought arises, we are aware of it immediately again and again. Our mind will change at this point. The path starts from here. It is the beginning of nirvana. Formerly, the mind was in the dark and did not know the path. When it can overtake thoughts, then the mind will be illuminated. This light is not the external light, that can be viewed by the naked eye. The mind itself is free and illuminated. It is called wisdom eye, the arising of Jnana of Vipassana, insight. We should continue practicing rhythmic arm movement or walking back and forth. We can practice at any speed we like. Keep on practicing. Let Jnana, insight, itself penetrate the objects of insight. There is no need to learn from any teacher or scripture. When Jnana penetrates the objects of insight, the mind will be free step by step. There are 5 steps: the first jhana, the stage of seeing, knowing, and touching the objects of insight with the mind; the second jhana, the third jhana, the fourth jhana, and the fifth jhana, respectively. When we know, see, and understand these objects of insight, thought will arise quicker. When we reach the last step, jnana will arise by itself. Once I attained this state, I understood the saying that the Lord Buddha has his hair cut only once. Whenever you have attained this, you could understand it, you cannot know it beforehand. If you know it beforehand, that is knowledge of Jnana. It is not being. When I see, know, and understand this, I realized, oh, the Lord Buddha has his hair cut only once. That does not mean the real hair. It means this was cut off. As we fasten a rope tightly between two poles, when we cut it in the middle, each part will return to its pole and cannot be rejoined. We will know and see the change. It is absolutely light, as if it is weightless. It is the end. When it ends, jnana will arise, and one will realize the end of suffering. Recommendations. There are two kinds of thought. The thought that comes in a flash, then goes away. This kind of thought brings anger, greed, or delusion. The second kind is the thought that we deliberately think. This one does not bring anger, greed, or delusion, because we intend to think with mindful knowledge. In this method, do not try to suppress thoughts. Let thoughts arise naturally. The more thoughts arise, the more we are aware. Some people feel annoyed with the distractions and worried that there is no samadhi, meditation. This is a misunderstanding. Distraction is a good thing because the more thoughts arise, the more we are aware. Keep on cultivating self-awareness earnestly, but do not concentrate. When thoughts arise, do not suppress them, but detach from them by being aware of the bodily movements. Self-awareness will replace the unawareness. Observing thought is the most important thing, which most people ignore. When thought arises, we begin to criticize or make comment on it. This means that we get into thought. It is not letting go of thought. It is knowing thought, not seeing thought. If we keep observing thoughts without any bodily movement, when thoughts arise, we will get into them easily. Therefore, it is necessary to be aware of the bodily movements. When thought arises, we will see, we will know. Whenever we see ghosts, deities, Buddha images, crystal balls, or even the Lord Buddha, that is not true seeing. It happens because the mind wanders away. We do not see the thought, so the mind concocts by itself. It concocts because we do not see the source of thoughts. When thought arises without our seeing, it will conjure up ghosts, colors, lights, deities, hell, or heaven. Whatever it is, we will see it as such. It is an illusion. It is the mind's trick. The seeing is true. What is seen is not true, so it cannot free the mind. Only if we see realities, the mind will be free from suffering. This is the shortest path. When thought arises, be aware of it immediately. This is the authentic Dhamma practice. Doing the rhythmic movement is only the technique, which can help to see thought. Part 3. Obstacles and Solutions. There are some obstacles in this method. I will recommend you how to solve these obstacles that may occur to the practitioner. Strain, dizziness, giddiness, suffocation. When we first begin our practice, we tend to concentrate. We want to know, see, be, and have. This is not the right understanding. If you know, see, be, and have, you might get strain, dizziness, giddiness, or suffocation. This is not the correct practice. When thoughts arise so much, we do not like it and try to suppress them. This brings us trouble. The correct method is practicing with ease. Look far away and cultivate self-awareness lightly and gently. Do not concentrate. Move or walk comfortably and rhythmically with awareness. Drowsiness. If you feel sleepy while practicing, you should change to another kind of work, for example, weeding, washing your face, taking a bath, washing clothes. We should find a way to avoid the obstacle. Calmness under unawareness. Calmness under unawareness is called BT, rapture, clinging to calmness. This is an obstacle. The cultivating of self-awareness is not to obtain this kind of calmness, but always be aware of the movements. Vipassana. After we have attained Rup-Nam objects, this is the end of the basic stage. Someone will stop practicing because he thinks that he has attained the highest Dhamma. At this stage, knowledge will arise endlessly and we will be proud of this knowledge. When thoughts arise, he does not see them, and then gets into them. One who attaches to Vipassana will be talkative and arrogant. The knowledge of Vipassana will soon be forgotten and makes man too proud of himself. This is called Vipassana. The solution is, doing rhythmic movement with ease, do not concentrate or desire for the result. Do the movements lightly and gently. When thought arises, be aware of the bodily movements. Jnana. When one realizes Paramatha objects, see appendix, PT, rapture, will arise. One is delighted of this knowledge. In general, PT is good, but according to this method, PT is the obstacle of attaining the end of suffering. When PT arises, one will attach to it. We should do the bodily movements vigorously, and as much as we can, to turn the mind away from PT, and back to the movements. Do it slowly and rhythmically. When self-awareness increases more and more, PT will gradually fade away and the mind will return to the ordinary state. Suffocation, giddiness, or strain may arise. We should practice with ease, look far away and move gently. We should not stop practicing because of these obstacles, but continue our practice earnestly. Do not sleep in daytime but rest at night. Vipassana. According to the texts, Vipassana means seeing false as true, hell as heaven, evil as good. Vipassana is the state of mind, when one discovers something excellent, and thinks that he can keep it. So he leaves self-awareness behind to get that thing. It is like it was stolen by a thief. When he starts looking for it, it is no longer there. It is hidden. One should not leave self-awareness, even at the end of suffering or whatsoever. I realized the end of suffering after I attained it. At that moment, I was in the state of Vipassana. I clung to ecstasy because I had never been like this before. I was walking back and forth and I felt like I was floating above the ground about 1 to 2 meters. Actually, I was walking on the ground. I clung to that ecstasy but it did not last for long. Then I was aware of myself, why is it so? I began to review the objects of insight. At this stage, you should review the objects backwards and forwards, but this does not include Rup-Nam objects. After reviewing the objects, the ecstasy will gradually fade away. The mind will return to the ordinary state. Summary. If there is strain, dizziness, giddiness, or suffocation, we should do the movements gently. Do not concentrate. Do it with ease, look far away, then the uncomfortable feelings will loosen by themselves. The solving method of Jnana is the same. Vipassana and Jnana must be solved by correcting the technique. Do not review the objects of insight. In the case of Vipassana, we must review the objects of insight, Paramatha objects. Practice with ease. When the objects are clear, the strain will gradually decrease. Let thoughts arise, do not suppress them. When you practice, you must take care of yourself. Do not expect other people to take care of you. When anything that is not normal arises, you must stop practicing immediately. The abnormal state will gradually decrease by itself. Epilogue. 1. If we have right understanding, Dhamma practice will not be difficult. The truth that the Buddha taught exists in man. What he taught, everyone can do. 2. This method is easy. It is not necessary to study the scriptures, because the truth exists in man. Everyone can be aware of the movements of his own body and mind. Though we are not aware of ourselves, the bodies still move and thoughts arise, but we are not aware of them. The mind will conjure up unreality, if we are not aware of the movements of the body and the mind. This method is nothing other than being aware of the movements of the body and the mind. In other methods, there are many activities, for example, keeping precepts or practicing concentration. This method is not related to anything else. Why not? Because the truth exists within ourselves. 3. When we cultivate self-awareness, we should let every part of the body and the mind work naturally. Do not force them against their nature. This technique can be applied naturally, and does not do anything against the body's functions. Eyes, to see. Ears, to hear. Nose, to smell. The bodily movements must be done in a natural manner according to their functions. The mind generates thoughts, let it functions freely. Do not do anything against the natural functions of the body and the mind, but cultivate the self-awareness to catch up with the movements of the body and the mind. 4. There are two kinds of calmness. The first is the calmness under unawareness, a dull calmness like a brick or stone. It is called calmness without bhunya or calmness under delusion. The second is calmness with awareness. It may not be called calmness, but should be called enlightenment. This kind of calmness is calmness without anger, greed, delusion, calmness without ignorance, calmness without unawareness. Whatever you call it, it is only words. Calmness with awareness means we do not want anything else. We no longer seek for teachers, or methods, or places. Calmness means cessation. 5. The rhythmic bodily movements and the cultivating of self-awareness cause bhunya. This bhunya does not arise from intellect. It arises from the law of nature. We call it jnana bhunya of Vipassana, wisdom of insight. What is the meaning of bhunya arising? It means bhunya arises from the realization of a set of insight formulas. It is not necessary to learn these formulas from the scriptures. This set of insight formulas means success which is within the formulas themselves, as diamond buried in the mud, after being sifted, only the diamond remains. We should practice until these formulas appear naturally and exists permanently. Everybody has the set of formulas within himself. After attaining the end of suffering, jnana will arise. Birth is extinguished, existence is extinguished, the religious life is complete, and there is nothing left to do. The studying of Buddhism ends here. 6. Cutting the hair only once means, the body returns to its original state, and the mind returns to its original state by the law of nature. This is neither long nor short. It is insipid, wonderful, and respectable. You have never attained it before. Dhamma is not what you can imagine, you have to practice until attaining the state of being. Everyone should keep in mind that if we do not attain this state, when we are nearly died, about 1 to 2 seconds to 5 minutes before the last breath, we will experience this, then our breathing stops. This is the truth, the ultimate truth. Everyone must die and will experience this. If we do not realize this, we will live in the mundane world. If we realize this, it is the way out. When we see this, birth extinction state, we will realize the state of dying. It must be like this. We will know how to die. Everyone must come to this point. No one can escape because everyone must die. This truth is unchangeable, whether one realizes it or not. It is so. 7. Being aware of the movements of the body and the mind, can lead us to this point, the end of suffering. This is the path to walk by oneself. It is the one and only path. This path is different from others. You will realize Rupnam objects within 5 to 10 days, if you practice earnestly. One who practices seriously, within 1 to 3 months, his state of mind will change. It is the beginning of the path. If you are a conscientious man, no longer than 3 years, you will attain the end of suffering. For one who is not serious enough, it is useless even after 10 years. I have challenged many people to practice. More or less, some must have realized. Warning. You should not practice according to your own content, opinion, or thought. In order to make your practice progress, You should be obedient to the instruction of the craftsman, the teacher. You should avoid talking to each other, and refrain from taking all kinds of addictive things, such as cigarettes, tea, coffee, etc., otherwise your mind will be attached to them. You should practice with determination. Do not deceive yourself. Do not sit still. Keep doing rhythmic movements continuously. Do not concentrate. Practice with ease. Open your eyes. Let thoughts arise freely, do not suppress them. For this method, you will see, know, and understand this way, see appendix. If you see other than this, it is not correct. Normality. Luangpor Teean, 1911 to 1988, was one of the most remarkable teachers of Buddhist practice, to appear in Asia in modern times. His teaching issued very directly from his own experience, intensely personal and original. Not a scholar nor academic, but a simple man who spoke very frankly about his experiences. His method of meditation employs simple hand and arm movements as a way to increase awareness. If you are searching for ways to calm a busy mind, Luangpor Teean's gentle teaching will guide the way. Luangpor Teean Jitta Subho. Forward. The way Luangpor Teean teaches differs somewhat from other teachings because he speaks directly from his experiences. Luangpor Teean couldn't read or write, nor speak Central Thai, only the Lao dialect, until 12 or 13 years before he died. Because of this lack of academic knowledge, his words don't always correspond to the accepted interpretations of those words. One who is attached to conservative explanations will find this unacceptable, but someone with an open mind, concerned about what is behind the words, can step over rigid views about what things mean. For example, the four chanas are explained in terms of the four stages of enlightenment, and seeing the Tathagata, as seeing oneself. Some of these points could be seen as ready-wit, Pali, Patipanna, and at the same time, their meaning recognized. Other things need a mature attitude of not fussing about definitions, but sincerely opening up to what Luangpor is trying to convey. It is unlikely that it will escape the reader's attention that Luangpor Teean was a simple man, who spoke very frankly about his experiences, and the reason he did so seems rather obvious. With confidence one is liable to open up the mind more and come closer to what Luangpor is pointing to. To have an open mind is exactly what awareness is about, to receive anything that appears or occurs in the present, whether it is a sensation due to movements, breathing, the eyes blinking, the knee resting on the floor, a breeze touching the skin, or even sound and visual phenomena. We hear and see them in the present, don't we? As long as the mind doesn't proliferate, all of this can be used as more objects of awareness. They are not obstacles. That's a different attitude than training in concentration, where the mind is narrowed down to one point. But samadhi is the establishing of the mind, and we can establish the mind in awareness every second of the day because movements, as well as this practice, are natural. The translator. Walking the path. Taking a shortcut. Today the monks, novices, and lay people are meeting here in order to study the method to develop meditation. We're not interested in anything else because we've done it already. For example, making merit, being generous, upholding precepts and doing tranquility, meditation. As for insight meditation, we've heard about it, but we don't yet understand, or we've only practiced it a little bit. Therefore, before we start practicing insight meditation, we have to rely on listening and reading from scriptures before we understand what tranquility meditation is and what insight meditation is. Developing awareness is the path that the Buddha teaches. Things outside of Buddhism. Making merit, being generous, keeping precepts and doing tranquility meditation are a pair with the world. Whether there is a Buddha or there is no Buddha, these things exist anyway. When Prince Siddhartha was born, Brahmins were assiduously looked after, which is making merit and offerings. As for tranquility meditation, it's a matter of psychic powers, a matter of ambition. We've probably heard about becoming invisible, flying through the air, diving into the earth, reading other people's minds, multiplying oneself, reciting magical verses to obstruct vision, and hearing by entering absorption. This is not insight. According to the Buddha's biography, when Prince Siddhartha ordained, he studied with the hermit Alara, and mastered 7 absorptions, 4 form absorptions and 3 formless absorptions. But suffering still existed. That is to say, there was still greed, hatred, and delusion. He was not satisfied with this and so studied with the last teacher, the hermit Utthaga, until he mastered the 8 absorptions, 4 form absorptions and 4 formless absorptions. The hermit said, "That's as much as I know." But the prince was still not satisfied because there was still greed, hatred, and delusion. He wasn't liberated from suffering yet. This shows that tranquility is not able to put an end to suffering. After this, the prince tormented himself, together with the 5 ascetics who were following him. He fasted until his body was so thin that it was just skin over his bones, and he held his breath. But even after doing all this, greed, hatred, delusion, satisfaction and dissatisfaction still persisted. There were still defilements. Things inside Buddhism. So the prince gave up those methods and started to eat fruit. Because of this, the 5 disciples avoided and eventually left him, so he practiced by himself. Having eaten some rice offered by Miss Suchata, his body recovered strength. He reflected on the various methods that he had been practicing but which were not capable of shaking off the defilements. He still had troubles and suffering. So the prince turned around and looked at his mind and was, at last, successful. He attained Anuttara Sammasambodhiyana and became the fully enlightened Buddha. He was able to conquer all the defilements and to extinguish suffering, leaving only coolness. His body was back to normal and his mind was free of suffering at last. He lived with and enjoyed the happiness of awareness and wisdom. Having attained this, the Buddha shrank back from teaching, reflecting that this practice was profound, and it would be hard to understand. So it can be taken that mind development is something difficult to do, and that this is what Buddhist teaching is about. As for making merit, being generous, keeping precepts, and doing tranquility meditation, it is not the teaching of the Buddha, but a teaching of teachers at large. Teachings outside of Buddhism. There were many sects in India. Some sects taught to lie roasting on fire so that defilements would dry up, some taught to lie on thorns to endure through the pain and torment that resulted from that, in order to get rid of defilements. Some sects ought to give up everything including clothes, a practice known as naked asceticism, so as to induce the feeling that there is no self, no shame. It was believed that defilements would be dissolved that way. Altogether, there were many sects, but none of them could eliminate the defilements. This matter can easily be proven, as it is said that lying roasting on fire and drinking hot water will result in the heat burning off the defilements. In the old days, in the villages, when a woman gave birth, she would be laid down roasting above a fire and given hot water to drink. But the woman would still have defilements, showing that this sect did not achieve results. As for the sect that would have its followers give up everything and go naked, just look at a baby not wearing clothes. It still has moods and feelings. As soon as someone talks nicely, it laughs. And when someone scolds, it cries, whether naked or clothed. This shows that defilements are not in the body, they are in the mind. Therefore, to practice Dhamma we have to practice at the mind. I will tell you so you'll understand, because I have been doing this, repeating a mantra such as Bhud, though, Sammat Arahant, rising falling, counting, 1, 2, 3 with these methods, one has to sit with the eyes closed and repeat a word while watching the breath, for example, saying Bhud, with the in-breath, and though, with the out-breath. I've done quite a lot of this, but there was still satisfaction and dissatisfaction, greed, hatred, and delusion didn't diminish. This kind of practice is called tranquility meditation. Tranquility meditation is not more than a means to make the mind peaceful, but it is peace under the influence of delusion. It's just like putting a rock on top of grass. As long as the rock is on top of the grass can't grow, but when the rock is removed, the grass grows just as before, or maybe even more vigorously than before. It is true that there is no lopa, dosa, and moha when we're sitting alone, with the eyes closed, but as soon as we go back into society, like and dislike are born again. This is how it is. Going off to stay in a cave in a forest or the mountains cannot extinguish suffering, just because of going to stay there. At first, I did it like that also. The teachings inside Buddhism. The word Vipassana translates as realizing and truly seeing. Seeing what? Seeing impermanence, instability, and non-selfhood. When having insight, one views things differently than before. It is a transcendency. When we don't yet see clearly nor truly know, then acting, speaking, and thinking are as before. It is not yet Vipassana. But when we feel differently than before, that is, greed, hatred and delusion decrease, it can be called Vipassana. A handful of leaves, awareness. To practice insight meditation, the Buddha teaches us to develop 4 foundations of awareness, namely 1. Gayanupasanasatipatthana, that is, to meditate on the body, in the body, and see according to actuality, that this body is only just a body, it's not a being, an individual, nor a self. It is neither me nor it. 2. Vedananupasanasatipatthana, to meditate on the feelings, and see according to actuality, that these feelings are only just feelings, they are not a being, an individual, nor a self. They are neither me nor them. 3. Jittanupasanasatipatthana, to meditate on the mind, in the mind, and see according to actuality, that this mind is only just mind, it is not a being, an individual, nor a self. It is neither me nor it. 4. Dhammanupasanasatipatthana, to meditate on the mental objects, in the mental objects, and see according to actuality, that these mental objects are only just mental objects. They are not a being, an individual, nor a self. They are neither me nor them. The teachings of the Buddha are many, I'm not able to describe all of it. We probably heard that at one time our Buddha was walking with a number of monks in the forest. Seeing fallen leaves scattered around, the Buddha picked up a handful of leaves and asked those bhikkhus, monks, which is more, the leaves in my hand or all the leaves in the forest? The bhikkhus answered, the leaves in the forest are more than those in your hand, so much so that they cannot be compared. The Buddha then taught that the knowledge and understanding that the Buddha had studied was comparable to the leaves in the forest, and the knowledge that he taught us was comparable to a handful of leaves. The leaves in the forest stand for making merit, generosity, keeping precepts, and developing tranquility meditation, and the handful of leaves for insight meditation. However, to do Vipassana we have to study through listening and reading at first, before we start practicing. Otherwise we'll waste a lot of time gathering all the leaves in the forest. The practice of Vipassana that the Buddha teaches, though developing the 4 Satipatthana, means learning to be aware. The Buddha said that there are 2 things that are of great assistance, namely, first, sati, to recollect or not forget that there is the body, that there are movements, that there are feelings, that there is mind or that there are mental objects. Before doing or thinking anything, know it with awareness. And second, sampajanya, to realize, the moment we're thinking something, to realize it fully. Sati sampajanya, when using ordinary language, just means to wake up, to awaken, to feel oneself all the time. Developing awareness gives rise to wisdom. Talking from experience, it is not necessary to sit with the eyes closed in order to develop awareness. I've done the method of sitting with closed eyes, and wisdom didn't arise. But doing the new method, my method, wisdom did arise, and I got the feeling that is in accordance with the texts. Some people may think that my method is new because they've never heard it before, but actually it is as old as the Buddhist teachings. A. Arouse the body to always feel and be awake. The development of awareness that I'm talking about and have been doing is done as follows. We can either sit down on the floor or on a chair, and it can even be done in the lying or standing position. Catch with your awareness the movements of the hands, turn the hand up, turn the hand down, raise the hand, lower the hand. Be aware of each posture. Do this often. This is the coarse way of developing awareness. Simply speaking, walking, or lying down, or whatever you may be doing, know it. Everyone can do this method, no matter what religion one believed in. It can be practiced by all. People of all nationalities can do it because everyone has a body and mind. All religions teach the same thing, to abandon what is bad and to do what is good. B. Arouse the mind to always feel and be awake. Having developed awareness until one is skilled at it, catch the feelings in the mind with awareness, following whatever comes up, no matter what one is thinking. Know and see it. Keep watching your own thoughts continuously. Regardless of what you're doing, look at your own mind all the time, no matter what it is that you are doing, reading a book, writing, digging, cutting grass or bathing. Keep watch over your own mind all the time. What kinds of feelings are coming up? Satisfaction, dissatisfaction, worry, doubts, etc. These things are all thoughts, objects. Watch over these thoughts and objects. Then we will see the various kinds of thoughts, such as gladness, sadness, desire to get, desire to not get, anger, hate, and so forth. They don't exist all the time. They arise and pass away, they change all the time. We are not glad or sad for 24 hours. See, to know and see according to reality. Change, arising passing away, is what the Buddha showed to be impermanence, instability and non-selfhood. So don't follow moods. The Buddha proclaimed that he was enlightened by working with the mind. We have to look at our minds. Watching the mind is turning on the light by using the switch. When we do this often, awareness will become nimble and quick. Awareness will intercept greed, hatred, and delusion and prevent it from arising. Awareness and concentration are together. As for wisdom, it means knowing and seeing clearly. In Pali, it says Nati Panyasama, meaning there is nothing as bright as wisdom. And Sathi they sung Navaranung, meaning awareness is that which prevents the stream of defilements. There isn't anything that is fast enough to hold back this stream, other than Sathi. It is this awareness and wisdom, that come and contact, know, see, and stop it, not letting us become deluded. This is because Sathi, Samadhi, Panya, is opposite to dosa, moha, lopa. If we don't see, know, and understand, there is full greed, hatred, and delusion. It is comparable to nighttime, when it's dark. As soon as we light a candle there is light and the darkness disappears, because darkness is afraid of light. As soon as the candle goes out, the darkness immediately comes back. D. Peace as result. That I'm giving some reflections and explaining, this shortcut method of practice is in order for you all to take it, and practice with it, so that you get quick results and don't have to waste time. This method can be used in daily life. There is no need to stop working in order to practice. Some people have practiced a bit already, and some people have only just heard it. Some people who have never heard it might feel displeased. If that's how you feel, then discard that feeling first, the knowledge that you have learned before. Put it down for now and test out what I'm saying, try it out and you will know what the results that arise are like. I dare to guarantee that, this method is at least 80% right according to what the Buddha teaches. Talking according to just my own personal feeling, it is 100% right, because having practiced it, I know that it alleviates greed, hatred, and delusion. When those things diminish, peace arises instead. Full awareness as result. I'd like to give another example. Take a glass. We can see that there is air in the glass. When we pour water into it, the air goes out and the water is in it instead. Then, when we pour the water out, the air goes back in and replaces the water. This compares with our turning up the hand. We know, we have awareness, sati comes to replace not knowing, delusion. Not knowing goes out of our minds. Do it often. Catch the feeling often, in all postures. Sati will increase, and delusion, not knowing will decrease just as the water replaces air in the glass. Maybe some of you have heard about, or have been taught, to make merit, for example by building a ceremonial hall or temple, and you get merit for this or that many eons. And you've probably heard that, 100 years on earth equals on year in heaven. The angels throw one sesame seed in a pit that is 100 leagues deep. When it is full, that's 1 eon. Other than that, you've probably heard that to once put food into a monk's bowl, you get rewarded for 6 eons, sending a container with food to offer to monks, one gets rewarded for 5 eons, to send food for the midday meal, 5 eons. These things are puzzles, but some people don't understand. If you want to understand, you have to practice, to develop awareness, by turning the hand up and down, feeling it. Before, we would do things without sati, not feeling anything at all. It's comparable to an abyss or pit that is empty, nothing in it, just like in that puzzle. But when training in awareness, catching the movement in all postures, for example, blinking the eyes, sitting and lying down, we are aware, feeling it, knowing it. When doing this, sati increases, just like the sesame seeds that fall in the pit, or abyss that is 100 leagues wide, and 100 leagues deep. The aim of this comparison is that we train a lot in awareness, and that we do it a lot in order to get results, to make sati full, so that we are not negligent or deluded.
May all beings be at ease, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be